Is this budget a wolf in sheep's clothing for your small business? I'm Dan Bradbury, and here are my initial thoughts on the 2024 budget. So, let's set the scene. This was the first budget in our country's history delivered by a woman. It was also the first Labour budget in 14 years. And in the media, since the new government came in, it's been framed up as it was going to be bad. There was a £22 billion black hole. You know, though we have to pay for the $500 billion we spent over the COVID period. So everything's going to go up. Things are going to get cut. All taxes are going to go up increasingly. So the context was bleak. But that's always how it goes. That's always how it's positioned. They make it sound really bad. So on the day, it doesn't feel as bad when they actually deliver the punch. And as it was coming in and I was watching it live, I got several messages from private clients, a couple of whom were going through the process of selling their business, that were especially worried about losing BADR, that's Business Asset Disposal Relief, the new name for Entrepreneurs Relief. And they went, oh, it's not as bad as I thought. But that's what they want you to think. See, here are the facts. When it gets down to it, the one that we all knew about that was kind of leaked in advance, employers' national insurance has gone up. But there was more nuance than that, right? So it going up from 13.8 to 15% is one thing, but they also lowered the threshold for the salaries at which you start paying it on your employees. But then they try to then offset that by having the employee's allowance increase from $5,000 to $10,500. If you've got less than a few £100,000 worth of salaries, you'll actually be better off. But as your payroll grows, it will hit you in the pocket. But it felt kind of obfuscated. Then there's Business Asset Disposal Relief. They had said, or the media had covered, it was going to get cut. So this is when you pay 10% on your first £1 million. You know, many years ago, it was first £10 million on the sale of a business. You'd only pay 10%, but it got reduced. I think it was by Rishi Sunak to just £1 million several years ago. And they were going to scrap it all together. But they went, no, we're not scrapping it. However, as soon as you look at the detail, it's only 10% until next April. So my private clients who are selling right now are really, really happy. In fact, one of them just sold for an immensely large amount of money and got a very, very surprising tax result, right? He sold for many tens of millions in cash that I'll come back to at the end of this video. So they're very happy. However, from April, it goes from April 25 to April 26, it goes up to 14%. And then the year after, it goes up to 18%. Okay, so it's coming in line with capital gains tax. So effectively, it is going. They've just phasing it out over time. Okay, capital gains tax is going up from 10% to 18% if you're a basic taxpayer, or a 20 to 24% if you're a higher taxpayer. So look, that's an increase of up to 80%, going from 10 to 18%. It's crazy. The one that really irritates me, that could irritate you, is the tax on second homes. It's been 3% and not been 3% for very long, but it's gone up to 5%. And I get the narrative, it's to help support more people buying the first homes. But for business owners like you, that part of their wealth and their retirement is about owning multiple property assets and having rental income, you've just got a 66% increase, going from 3 to 5% on the tax on second homes, right? In addition, HMRC are getting extra funding to curb tax avoidance, not evasion, avoidance. What that means to you in the small business world is there's going to be more investigations, there's going to be more inspectors, and they're more aggressively going to come after their money. And there's also an increase on the charges and the rates that you pay if your tax is late. So if you're in trouble, it's going to put you in a weaker position. And there's also going to be more red tape and more time spent defending against tax claims. I don't know about you, but I've just finally settled a tax dispute that was going on for 8 years. And you know what? After 8 years and many, many tens of thousands of pounds in legal and accounting fees, do you know what? I ended up paying them less than I thought that I owed them 8 years ago. Crazy. And there's going to be more of this stuff. That's extra funding for HMRC. I mean, I like to think that the extra funding to HMRC will cause their telephones to get answered more frequently and them to actually respond to messages, and actually when you're owed VAT refunds or corporation tax refunds, that to get processed more quickly. I suspect it won't. The one, however, that's most scandalous that may affect you is many of my clients have children who go to private school. They're privately educated. In my case, I've got 3 children, and for personal reasons, one's privately educated and 2 aren't, but that's just how we chose to do it as a family. But there is now VAT on private school fees from January 25. So look, they're giving no time for this. This is absolutely scandalous. So let's be clear. They want to tax us for wanting a better education for our kids. So I'm paying VAT, as in that my business is charging VAT and handing over VAT. I'm then paying corporation tax, which not that long ago went up from 19 to 25%. I'm then paying high rates of income tax, and the fiscal drag means that I'm paying more and more in income tax or tax on dividends. Okay, and then after all that, my net income, which has already been squeezed, I want to allocate some of that to bettering my child's future and giving them the best possible education, and you're now giving me a 20% bump on this. It's absolutely scandalous. Let alone it won't work. Rest assured, if you actually look at the maths in this, the number of pupils that will leave private schools and go into the state system, there's plenty of research. There's a research and a report that's been written that effectively illustrates it may not even net gain any tax for the government. It might be a net negative because of all the students that then have to be funded through the state system. Scandalous. So all these things are going on and many more. That's just the first things I've done the list because I've literally just watched the budget and recording this video. However, when one door closes, another one opens. So this year, so the year 2024, I've paid more in personal tax than I have ever had in my life. So you go, well, that's a bad thing. That's proof that you pay more tax. Until I tell you that my effective tax rate has gone down. So really, I paid more tax just because I made much more money than I've ever done before. But my effective rate went down. So the reality is there are windows of opportunity. And whenever the rules change, there become little gaps open up. So one door closes, another one opens. So that there is opportunity if you're flexible. You just need to be more nimble. In addition to that, I do think it's tough times for the UK economy. There will be the opportunity to buy assets for pennies in the pounds. Businesses will fail. I do think unemployment will rise because more and more people will get laid off and businesses will close down, and therefore there will be the liquidation of assets, and you'll be able to buy things if you're nimble, if you're smart, if you are educated, right? So listen, this morning I woke to the happy news that a private client of mine we started a long time ago, 10, 15 years ago, I just exited his business for approximately £61 million. Cash sale. And you know the interesting thing? He's not paying a penny in tax on that transaction, right? Now, there's a lot of complexity to that, so it would be inappropriate to go into that. But I've got another private client, who recently secured £3 million in investments from a retail billionaire to help scale up one of his businesses. The point I'm making is this. There are opportunities going on all around you. It's easy to focus on the bad, but you're an entrepreneur, you're a business owner, you control your own wealth. From a business perspective, let's figure out ways to make more money and build wealth. From a tax perspective, let's get educated and see the opportunities. I do think this budget was a wolf in sheep's clothing. I think the devil's in the detail, and then you're figuring out how to play with inside of the rules. I want to be clear. I'm talking about being totally compliant and legal. The client who's exited for 61 million, like in the details, that's totally kosher, totally above board, totally legit. He's paying zero in tax. A few years ago, I had a friend of mine, Steve Bennett, who'd exited his business for £80 million. He paid zero in tax. There are ways of doing things, but they're just not mainstream, right? So you really need to know the ins and outs. And that's why if you want to get educated, you need to get along to our upcoming event, the Wealthy Entrepreneur Workshop. We're going to cover a lot of things about good debt, bad debt, about having your biggest payday, about tax efficiencies. It's always personal to your own individual circumstances, but you need to get the best caliber advice. Okay, if you're just copying everybody else, you're going to get the epitome of average. You need to get the best advice from the best people. And at the Wealthy Entrepreneur Workshops, we've got some of the fastest growing business owners in the country. I've got another friend of mine coming who exited a few years ago for £53 million in cash, a cash exit. I've got another friend of mine coming along who raised an 8-figure sum from Warren Buffett to kind of invest in his vision and his cause. Get around smart people and great things happen. You want to offset the damage from the budget, but not just offset it, do better because of it. You want to come along to the Wealthy Entrepreneur Workshop. Look around this video. There'll be a link that'll give you more information. Hope to see you there.